Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi, everybody. Ark here with a special guest, the cosmic, not, I don't know, I almost called you a wizard, Tom Wall. uh, but yeah, Tom's going to tell us about his music and how he got involved in Pythagorean music as a 432 hertz. So, welcome, Tom. What just kind of like I like organic conversations, so whatever you can come up with that floats your boat.
Oh yeah, no, I've actually done a lot of these. It's always fun. I always enjoy these. Um, we started off by talking about 432, and obviously this is the plant music thing. But before that, so I don't want to start off if I was into the music that is tuned to A at 432 hertz. So it's your A on your above middle C on a piano, and that's tuned to 432 hertz as opposed to 440, which is like a modern pop music. So that way, if anybody's listening that doesn't know, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about retuning our instruments slightly. Mm-hmm. And if you can't adjust it, if you're tuned to 440 on the scale to be anywhere in the 432, because it's just between a half note or a full note. So it's not quite to a half note. So it makes it its own thing. It's its own set of frequencies once you line it up right. And the whole theory behind it is that there's um, different emotions that can carry through in it, different vibes and feelings, and potentially healing frequencies, and all these different things that they've attributed to it, saying this different tuning can have some of these qualities. And for me, I wasn't sure. I'd read about what it was and what could be with it, but then I also know to try and take things with a grain of salt. So it's like, people are saying, "Oh my gosh, that because of Hitler, the whole scene of music was changed in the 40s or whatever." And that's just simply not the case from everything I've ever done in the research. It actually was changed in the 1800s. Everybody started deciding 440, and then they've been kicking around which one for a while, but it wasn't like this brainwashing thing like some people wanted to say it was. I feel like there are frequencies that can be manipulated in different ways, but I'm pretty sure that just modern music being tuned to what it is not that. But being intrigued like I was, knowing that there had to be something to this, and the whole Pythagorean thing, when mathematically the 2 and 432 lines up a lot more correctly mathematically, and music really is a set of just strictly mathematics. It's like the whole universe is based on the same principles that music is formed with, and if you can understand how it's all interconnected, it's a really cool thing. And we could dork out on that all day, but I know a lot of these times I'll get into these and like we'll want to do like 4 episodes just to cover it all. But I'll try and be a little bit more brief about it. But um, so 432, I started toying around with it, and I noticed the difference in the sound, and I noticed the difference in like how it felt to me, and I felt like I could feel it in my chest more when I would play music like that. And this was just me playing and have my band tuned to it or whatever. We're just messing around in the garage. And then we started playing out and about. We decided at one point to go out and like just try what it would be like to play for a crowd. And I noticed that people were responding differently to it, and they seemed to respond more to it from what we were used to anyway. And at some points, those early days, I remember people like actually holding their heart, and you could see people like discussing how they could feel an energy, almost like it's like, I don't know how to explain it, but like it's like just a frequency or vibration that's coming through you from the music, but that's like you can feel it just differently as you change the pitch of everything. You know what I mean? It's like if you hold everything in a certain spot, it changes the vibrations. And I mean, I think even Tesla showed us that with just a little bit of vibration, you can take down a whole building. So it's just like
Yep.
those vibrations are extremely important. And there's things like Rife out there, Rife being a type of healing modality that uses frequencies to send through your body. And there's a lot of promise with that I've seen. And so when I'm working with this 432, I'm looking for these sort of qualities. But beyond that, I'd already experienced right off the bat this good feeling. And so I'm sitting here tuning my guitar one day with a glass of water on top of my amp. And as I'm tuning it, all of a sudden I could see the rings in the glass. And I wasn't using a tuner at this point, but I was just tuning by ear. But as I was tuning the rings in the water on top of the glass, started forming in a certain way that like you could see perfect rings once I got it to right exactly at a certain point. And I checked it out, and 440 wasn't it, and I tuned down to 432, and it was becoming in tune with that, and I was just like, so there was something about this, and it was actually forming the water even differently, and that's when I actually realized there was a somatics thing. The somatics is the movement of motion through sound, or of objects through sound. Um, and they turn out in geometric patterns sometimes. And this here was these concentric string or circles in the glass of water, and I'm just like, well, there's obviously right there is telling me like there's physical proof to me that there's something going on here with this. So from that point on, I just decided I'm going to play in 432 from now on. And since then, I've gone on to record an album, and I went around and recorded a bunch of nature. And we took it into the studio at the very end of me recording everything. And I'm like, all right, now we're going to go and correlate the sounds of nature into the music. And as we went to go do this, obviously nowadays you can pitch correct whatever you need to do to make it fit into what you want. And we didn't have to. In the normal tuning of 440, those sounds didn't fit quite right. But in 432, the birds and the water flowing and the frogs and all that fit in. And so then that was my final confirmation. I was like, well, this is why we're doing this. And I know there was another band out there that the first time I saw them, they were called the Nth Power, and they're amazing. They're just an unbelievable band out of the East Coast. And when I saw them the first time, they're pretty underground for what they are, considering how amazing they are. But like, I saw them the first time, and the guy who was the music director for Founders Brewing Company at the time where I was at, he came up to me and he's like, dude, look at my arm right now. And his hair was just standing up on his arm. He goes, they're playing in 432. He said, and they hadn't really told many people about it at that point. So he was like, he was into it enough to understand it. And sure enough, he's sitting there with that hair on his arm, and you could feel it again in your chest. And we had talked about that after that. And my buddy Luke Sass, like I said, he was the manager um, for Founders there for a while for the music, and the difference in that band being there and how you could feel their music compared to all the other. I mean, we'd see bands all the time, great bands that they had a great line of music coming through there for a long time, and it was just to that contrast of feeling that 432 vibe, and so that just kept me in that vein. And then, like I said, then we made the album, and then the nature was in tune with it, and then we put the album out, and within a month of putting it out like we were supposed to, we were number 28 in the nation for jam bands, and we were hitting the college charts, and then we got to number 7, and we're in the top 30 for 5 months. And it's like I had certain things that I did that I wanted to make sure like all laid out right. And like I said, I put the nature in there, and I'd use some of the Fibonacci sequence when I could, if I in certain ways and all that. And I didn't think it was going to go as successful as it did. When I put it out, I said, man, if we get on a few radio stations, wouldn't that be cool? And by the time I stopped checking, we were on well over like 150 something or something like that. I think, I don't remember. But that was just like, and that was only in the first like 12 weeks of releasing the album. And it was growing. Like every week we'd get a whole bunch more ads, but like I just stopped paying for the promotion, because it's like, it's cool to look at, but it's like at the end of the day, it's not making you money to know that, unless they're hitting big in some market. And if it was, you'd know it. So I just stopped paying for the money, and we watched this all grow. But like, it was unbelievable, like how fast that music spread. And I feel like that tuning and that nature orientation and all that really had a big part in resonating with people. And the name
It's
of that
almost
album.
like the music marketed itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Because it's about real stuff too. It's genuine. I'm not trying to sing about anything bad. I'm not trying to sing about anything off-putting. I realize that there's a greater good in the world, and the universe will say, right? They're like, take any religion out of it, take any dogmas or anything that we could possibly get caught up with, right? Go like clear all that out and just say, we can all agree that there's the greatest good that we could serve.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not anything besides what it is. And we all understand the depth of what that means. It's like the greater good, what's the greatest good? What's the greatest good that we can do, right? And if we all work towards that, then we don't then we don't have to worry about anything else, and life would be better, and then we would all be making better choices. Like, so for me, my music is always trying to focus on like working towards greatest good. You know what I mean? And does that mean that we're all perfect? Absolutely not. Does that mean that it's going to happen overnight? Well, obviously, here we are. But I like to put out good vibes and stuff like that. I when I was younger, I didn't do that as much. I just kind of sang to whatever came to me, or the blues or whatever. But what I found is that what you sang about comes into your life immediately, and if not immediately, it will come in even bigger, like little ways down the road. And you got to be careful about it, and like word it correctly, and make sure that your life is taken care of correctly in those words. I feel like, because I've seen it time and time again where people start singing about something, the next thing you know, it just almost overtakes them or whatever, and it's just, I don't know what it is. It's like almost this
It's like it's that universal idea of what you put out, you're going to eventually get back. It doesn't usually come back pretty, like instantly or anything like that, but it's definitely what you're going to put out is going to come back to you. So I know a lot of people that meditate and they say, well, anybody who sends me a curse, I return to sender. And I said, I'm not doing that. I'm not returning a curse to anybody. I'll take that curse and return it to blessing and send that back to them. And I'm far less creative than what the universe is. So on how to deliver a blessing. So I'm going to take that, and I'm going to kind of turn, you want to use the word frequency, you want to turn just the idea of what it is that it might be trying to send to you as something negative. As a battery, I like to use the battery analogy because it's simple and it's visual and everybody knows what a battery is. And you got the negative pole and the positive pole. So I can take that out. I can flip it and I can make that my own and reproduce it and send that out. And that's where my attention goes.
Oh, I can see that. And one of the man that I would have ever considered a wizard in my life. And he was, oh my God, he was just the most amazing man. His name's Art Moderman. But, oh dang it! Now I'm forgetting the point I was just making about that. But the physics, no, the physics thing. Sorry, I
okay.
Even with two negatives, you make a positive because that's the way physics flows. So it's like you can have as many positives as you want, but two negatives still make a positive because that's just the way physics works out. So what ends up making it all happen is the fact that it's like no matter what, the universe is bound to be on the good side of things because it's 2/3. It's just the way it works out, even like in a simple form. You know what I mean? So it's like, based on that alone, we have to understand that like sometimes we gotta like not stress so much about all this the stuff that doesn't matter, right? And it's like it's gonna be okay. It's what we put our focus on, like making things better, or putting like I think like if you're meditating, gratitude, right? Like how much does just meditating on gratitude do for you? I'm sure that's one of the big primary focuses, right?
I have a lot of stuff that I get put towards me during the day for my day job. So really, it's kind of like peeling off the stuff. And it's not even specifically meditating on any one thing. So I don't. I have to be very focused during the day. And I tell people, I kind of say it in a jokingly way, but because I sometimes deal with people that are not necessarily out to for the greater good, I wear flat shoes so I can run when I need to. So I mean, I have to make sure that I can just decompress and let go of all that stuff. And it really is like emptying. It's not emptying, but you have to fill it back up with something. And I don't think I really focus on one specific word. Well, what do I need? What do I need that's going to be for my, as you said, the greatest good? Sometimes gratitude does come. Sometimes it's just like an unconditional love. I got hit with gratitude on the way here. Almost brought me to tears. That's the second time that's happened. And in like what, 5 years? It's weird because it just hits you. It's like bam. And I don't, the only thing I don't like about it is that at both times it's happened to me is when I'm driving. But right. I like to drive, so it's kind of a Zen thing for me. So
yeah, you got a question at that point. It's like it's probably almost given to you in that time because you're supposed to take it but not relishing it too much almost or something like that. Because it's like it keeps you, it's like almost like a buffer. You know what I mean? It's like we're gonna give
Yeah.
this to you, but only for this little bit because you know you gotta still be focused and all that.
I think very focused. Yeah, I mean, even when I got back here to the house, it's like, feeding the dog and doing this and doing that. And it's like, oh yeah, I gotta make sure I send that Zoom link to Tom.
No, it's good. I got home and I had like 3 minutes to spare, so I ate a bunch of pistachios quick and just hopped in here, and it's all good. It's been great.
Yeah, carrots
But
and carrots and cuke.
what's that?
Carrots and some cucumber.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
This guy got something in there. But I think that taking the time to clear out your energy and do all that is a form of gratitude because you're grateful for who you are on your own. And a lot of people don't even take the time. I think gratitude gets you to the place where you can understand who you are, and then other things can influence you and imprint on you if you don't shake them off. I know
Mhm.
so many people that don't understand that, and the few people that do know that understand that sure seem to be a lot happier in life, to be perfectly honest with you. Like even smudging, like even people who know how to like smudge properly and all that. And it's just like, it can seem like some hippy dippy crap, but at the same time, I've seen people do it right. I've talked to natives that knew what they were doing, and you can see the difference. You know what I mean? Like you can literally watch it happen almost, and like it's like if you know what you just got to know. There's a lot of people haven't had the level of availability for experience on things like that. Where are you located?
I'm in the Saginaw.
Okay, so you're in Michigan too, though.
Oh
One
yeah,
thing
yeah,
that we
yeah.
have up here is like there is a lot of that influence of different culture, like even Native American and everything like that. Even though it doesn't seem like it's that prevalent, it has a strong hold over the way we all view things up here because we know how bad it was. So, given that idea, I think it breeds a different way of looking at life for a lot of people and gives us a unique a way of understanding things a little better. And I think it definitely helped me understand nature better and get to the point where I would believe that the trees can play music and the plants can play music. Because you got to kind of go real far out already, right? Right soon, like soon as somebody says that, to believe that and to believe it wholeheartedly, and I mean, like not doubting yourself one bit and just going for it. It takes a lot of faith. You know what I mean? It takes you got to really believe because most people are not they don't believe until they see it firsthand. You know what I mean? Once they see it, then they
Do
believe
you
it.
think do you think maybe that non-belief might come from something like either self-worth, stuff like that,
Oh
somebody's
yeah,
perception of self?
yes, I think self worth has a lot to do with it because one, if they didn't come up with the idea, unfortunately in America especially, but it's just a human tendency. People like to be the one to do the thing. Most people like to be the one that did it or who's ever in control has top. And so when they don't, that's a challenge to them, and that's something that's so far out that when it comes up like that, it's just like it's like a challenge to who they are as a human and their intelligence, because now
Right,
it's like you've got to rethink everything that you ever thought in life,
right.
because a lot of people bounce along. I was talking to my buddy I was working with today about this, and I was like, a lot of people are just bouncing along in life, just living a normal life, not thinking deep about anything, because a lot of people do that, and God bless them. I mean, that's got to be a really awesome time and simple, and you know what I mean? Holy
I
Oh
know.
man,
Yeah, but do
if
you
it
do you
was
want
only
to
that
do you,
easy.
do you want to be the ocean or do you want to be the puddle on the sidewalk that dries up? I mean, I think I'd rather be a little deeper
Right,
than that.
right. But then you got some of these people, like, because I've done this in a situation with the plant music thing in front of like the situations where thousands of people are pouring through over the course of a weekend, and all of a sudden it's just like taking a baseball bat of reality and just smacking them in the face with it. And some people just break right down. I've seen people just start bawling. Like
Yeah.
I've seen people driving down the road in a car, slam on their brakes, pull over the side of the road, be like, "No way!" Like jump right out, and just like, "You gotta be kidding me!" And then walk up and just dumbfounded, like I said. And then I've had people that like they'd walk past and the plants would stop playing immediately. Like as soon as they come up here, they're just
Oh,
like, "Nope." Then it's just like, so what they do, And so we don't. There's a whole level of consciousness here, and again, we're already deep into this plant thing without explaining to the listeners at home that my a lot of my work I do is with a device that's called the music of the plants device that you can hook up an electrode to the roots and then one to the leaf, and it interprets the electromagnetic fluctuations of that plant or tree into a waveform like a lie detector, and then through that, depending on the size of the waves and whatever and how it moves, in that form, you can assign musical notes to it and it plays music with you. But the strange thing that came out of all this was that when we started into it, we thought it was just going to be noise and we were just going to sample it. But the plants and trees have learned somehow to play music back with me. And so I'll play a song with them and they play with me. And I really didn't believe that was going to be possible at first, but we just kept digging deeper and deeper into it. And the farther I go, the more I realize that it's real. And I'm having a hard time still even believing it myself. But
So
it's
do you
really
find though that when you're playing, so if you just plug them in and let them go, does their music change when you start
yeah,
playing?
yeah.
And do they mirror or do you follow?
No, I like so the first time I tried doing it when I first got the device, I plugged it in and started actually playing like a piano. I'm like, what? That's not what I was expecting. So I tried playing along with it and I couldn't follow it very well. It was kind of all over the place. So then finally I was just like, well, what happens if I play a song to it? And then it started to follow me. And that's when I just like was like, nah, and I turned it off. I was in disbelief for a while. And then I had my band come over and I showed them, and my drummer after he saw it, he was like, cool. But then he went into the room that we played music in and started playing drums, and all of a sudden that thing came alive, like it just lit up like a Christmas tree, and like musically anyway, just
Wow.
started just rocking out, and I was like, wow, he's a Native American, and I was just like, there's what the heck, this is something here. So then from there, we took it in the studio and it played a 7-minute song flat with no edits to it, and it played exact. It was the original song that I tried playing along with it, or played along to it, and called "Do You," and it's going to be off our next album. But like, it played so perfectly, I didn't have to edit any of it, and it's just that's when I knew. I almost fell over. You can hear me in the talking back mic to my drummer saying, "I'm playing music with a plant right now." And I literally fell over. It was an aloe plant. It had been
How
kicked
are you
out
going
like
to handle the royalties on that one?
I know, right? Right? That's what everybody says. It's just like, well, I'm gonna figure it out. Oh, man. Pretty wild though.
So
So
how long has this been going on for you? The
a little over
whole
3 years.
about 3 years?
Mhm.
Okay. Because I remember seeing the technology, it's been out. It just wasn't affordable. I mean, it was
Uh-huh.
like thousands and thousands of
And a
dollars for
rack
you to get
unit.
it.
Yeah, it was like a
Yeah,
rack unit. Now
yeah,
it's like a handheld thing for $400.
I
Yep.
know. I almost got one last year, but we didn't. I have a brown thumb, so I leave all the plants outside.
Yeah, and I haven't. Not everybody has the same reaction with like the plants when they like the music thing. Like for some reason, I mean, it's been around for a while. But even the company itself has been pretty blown away that it's responded the way it has to me because they weren't. I don't think they had people doing that. I mean, I don't know anybody else that's just plugged it into a rock band and said, "Let's go," and it just follows right along and plays right along, and it's. I mean, it jams. Like they do really good.
So when we now the ones that I've seen attached to the leaves, is this something where is a you put it in a root system? Because I'm just kind of thinking this is only where you're plugged into. Imagine the symphony that's going on that we don't have the ability to hear from everybody else. The grass, any of the plant life that's around you, not just the tree. There's a whole symphony that's sitting around you.
Well,
Is there a way to like tap into that?
um. That's a really, really extremely deep question for me. And the only way I could answer it is by saying yes, but with a big but. It wouldn't be with technology. There's something going on there, and I've only caught a glimpse of it. But I know there's others who have really understood how to tap into it. And I assure you that that's going on at all times around you at all times. I'm not kidding. Right now, I know what's happening.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and it's if you were to experience it, it would overwhelm you to such a degree, it would bring you so much joy. I can't explain it better than that, but we'll just say there's a realm out there that we are completely unaware of, and I don't think we're always unaware of it, but we're very unaware of it in most modern senses. And like, if you ever get a chance to understand it, it will change you in such a way that you will never get to go back to normal reality, for sure. And I think
I
you
don't think
probably
there
might.
is a normal reality. I don't think there
No,
is
but I
such a
think
thing
that
as
you of all
normal.
people you of all people might actually know what I'm talking about, but 90%, I would say 99.9% of people you're gonna meet probably haven't been on that and haven't gotten in on that. Like it's just there's a whole lot of learning you got to do to even understand about it. And I'm not saying that like
So what's
I
the
think if
it?
you could
What's the it, Tom? What's
no,
the
just
it?
there's just an energy in nature. It's just like a thing you can tap into. I don't know how to explain it better than that. There's an energy out there that it's just there, but it's an we'll call it the way almost, right? And it's guiding you, and it's there, and it's just like it's all around us, and it's like it's in every
The
living thing.
way or the
It will
wave?
call the way, WAY, the way, right? And I pointed out to people before, but like there's just almost like this force of nature that, and there's like this energy that prevails within it that holds over everything. Like I don't know, like every living thing has its own hierarchy of what it is and where it fits into the picture, and it's like there's a frequency there, and that within that frequency itself is a whole divine thing that's going on, like almost a whole universal thing in itself, and it's all is harmoniously working together. And I'm trying to be as scientifically explaining this as possible because I can say it in different ways, but it won't have the same impact. I don't feel, but like there's just a harmony, this harmony, this symphony that's going on, and I dig what Mark does a lot because of what he's into, because of that. So Mark Jagger, because he understands that, and for me, I like to try and find a way to make it as simply explained as possible, and there's no simple way to do it. But like,
Yeah. So they know who you're talking
man,
about. Yeah.
but if you can read it and you can follow it, like I'll say, like the natives, for example, could look at the day and like depending on the birds that were around them, they understood that there was a language and there was something conveyed to them. Everything that's happening in your life is like a conversation with you and the divine, right? And if you can understand that and read it, you can do a lot, and you can achieve more than you'd ever even dream. But if you don't, you're going to be frustrated a lot. You know what I mean? You're going to wonder why things aren't going right because you're not picking up on the clues. You're not looking at what's given to you because it's a blessing. Like, and that's
Yeah.
part of that gratitude thing. It's just to see the good that you can come of it, and even just to go towards the good. You're going towards the good. You're right. You work towards the good. That's gratitude to me. You're grateful so because you want to. So you're striving to go towards the good because you're grateful enough that things are good that you want to keep them good or make them better. And that's a severe form of gratitude. I feel like so. It's like I kind of it all falls in with that like what we had started with the gratitude, and I think the selfless love is the same thing because you can't get there without they're one and the same in a lot of ways. I feel like
Right. And it's achievable. What's the really cool thing is it's achievable for everybody, right? It's not something that's withheld. It's just has to be
absolutely.
your
And
willingness to let go of the BS and the programming and all the other fun stuff that, the shenanigans that are distractions around us. And, it's like you said, it's that I think the biggest thing is self-love, is just appreciating who you are, and you don't have to make a big deal out of that. And we're not, I actually saw some gal I don't know, it was about a month or so ago. She says, do whatever you got to do for self-care. Go there and get that Botox. And it's like, I don't consider that to be necessarily. I mean, that's my vessel. And I don't think I want something that's chemicals put in there. And
no,
it's like
that's
a
self-mutilation.
vanity,
That's
a
not
vanity
self-care.
thing.
That's self-mutilation. Unfortunately,
Yes.
no matter what anybody, it don't matter if it's from a piercing to a tattoo to any of it. At the end of the day, it's self-mutilation. It's like there's nothing wrong with that. That's absolutely an art in itself, and I don't disagree with any of it. I'm not saying anything bad about it. But the reality is, it's a form of self-mutilation, and it's just like you just got to be honest with yourself. It's like Botox, is it necessary? What's it going to do for you? You know what I mean? If it's something necessary, like
It
I've seen
makes
people where
somebody
they have,
feel good. And
I,
you know what? It's not necessarily the person that receives it. It's gonna be the guy who's walking home with that extra change in his pocket.
yep, yep,
It's
yep,
a
and he,
doctor and his
yeah.
staff, and yeah.
And there's no amount of
So
money, there's no amount of anything that can besides happiness that's going to make you happy. Happiness is a choice. It's
yes.
not a commodity. You can choose to be
Yep.
happy right now. You can choose to be miserable right now. It's literally a
Yep.
choice.
Absolutely is a
And
choice.
any one of us could think up a positive thought or a negative thought and go down that road and sit there and dwell on it for an hour straight. And we could be happy or sad right now. All of us, every single one of us. And it's just like that's a choice, isn't it? So why not be
Mhm.
happy?
Yep.
Be grateful at least. I mean, sometimes it's hard to be happy if you got a lot going on in your life, but you can at least be grateful that you're healthy enough to be, you know what I mean? Or, there's a lot of things that all of us have blessings that we can be grateful for. I
Absolutely.
mean, I know somebody that's fighting cancer like I've never seen before, and I can't believe what he's been through, and it's been amazing to watch him go through it. And I mean, unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. And he's still got a bright attitude compared to almost anybody else I know. Guy can't walk anymore. He's in bed. He can't do anything, and
Mm.
still he's got a brighter attitude than almost anybody else I know. So a lot of people say, "Oh, well, they got this going on or that going on," so that doesn't apply to them. It's like, well, I know almost nobody's going through what he's going through besides people that are right there on that edge, and if he can do it, pretty sure just about anybody could. So it's like we just that gratitude thing, man. Life is precious, and when you realize that, it helps you dig a little deeper and go out in nature and sit in the woods and realize what reality is, and not sit on your phone or not sit in the fucking city and just hum your brains out with all that noise and everything. You don't even realize it's going on. There's so many people that don't even know what it's like to just sit in a quiet forest with no sound of traffic around them and have just the sounds of nature. Very, very few people at this point in reality get that
Yeah,
experience like
not
that.
since I was a kid. We had no neighbors. We had 52 acres. There were no lights, nothing. I mean, when it was dark, it was dark. The only light you had at night were the stars and the moon, if it was even out. But that's it. We had no neighbors. There was nothing around us. And that was like the best place ever for a kid to basically kind of grow up a little bit.
Right. And how lucky are you? Most people aren't going to get to see the stars like that. We already have so much light pollution that you'll never see them like they were when we were younger, and it's only going to get worse, and we're just going to see less and less of them because of light
So
pollution.
here's something interesting. I was I was in Frankenmuth, and someone pointed out to me that it because they were living in the city most of their life, and when they moved to Frankenmuth, they noticed that not only was it super quiet compared to where they were at, uh, when they looked outside, because they're up, they're not on like on the ground floor, they're up in an apartment and they're higher up. Then when they had their shades open, it wasn't, they didn't know the no street light, but they could look out and look down, and that street light did not shoot any light up. It was very pinpointed. It only shone the light down onto the parking lot.
Mm.
So I think more and more cities are becoming aware of the
Oh,
light.
they are.
And
I
I
agree.
mean, Frankenmuth's a pretty well-to-do area, so you know, I don't know how long it's going to take for something like the cities that are not quite so, financially well off.
I've
Oh,
seen them around, and I'm in West Michigan here, kind of just outside of Muskegon, and some places in Muskegon are really well off. Some places are the worst in the state, and it's like Flint. I'm out here in the rural country. I'm out in the country, and they replaced all the lights, and it's almost off-putting because you can't see when the road's coming up now because the lights you only see the light right when you're underneath it. So you're looking for that light coming up to the road, and you're like, where did it go? And then so it's going to be taking a little bit of adjustment time, I think, for us. But the LEDs are going to be way better for the environment too because we're not pulling so much wattage. All those lights, oh my god!
dude, what about the day when there weren't any street lights? Because that's what I'm
Right,
thinking. I'm driving down that dark road. There were no street, and a dirt road. It was a dirt road, and it was dark.
yep,
No
yep,
lights, no street lights, not even a house light.
yep,
Sometimes it was
yep.
just swamp on either side of you. So,
Yep. Yeah, there for where my parents grew up was similar to that. It's still like that. There's on all those back roads and all that. It's just old country roads. They had 79 acres out there, and we throw a festival out there every year, and it's a beautiful place. Got a couple creeks flowing through it, but it's just nice to be secluded like that. Where they live a third of a mile off the road. All the animals run free. I mean, they just let the cats and dogs out. They don't think twice about it. They can go do whatever they want, come back. It's not a big deal, and it's a whole different way of living. Just a whole different way of living, and it helps you understand a different side of nature and reality that unfortunately is hard to obtain in this modern society because of the things that have been favored. It's like
right.
the vast majority of people favor things and glitz and glam or whatever it seems to be
Yeah.
most of the time, and instead of actual sustenance, and that's showing
Yeah.
itself really, really unfortunately in social media. People they care more about their social media activity than they do about being around their family. That's getting to be a real problem.
Yep, I think we have to use our social media to spread things like, the ideas of your music and getting back to what's really important, and
And it's so hard because they make the algorithms so difficult on people. And, I'm just starting to understand the best ways to go about engaging with the audience that I have to get the actual responses so people see any of it. But my goodness, it's so hard. I could take a video, put it on Instagram and get 5 likes, and then I put it on Facebook and I'll have thousands of views and have everybody like it. And it's just like, so what's the difference here? You know what I mean? It's just like, because they're limited in one spot. I mean, it's like there's not much difference in followers. So like, why? What? And then some days you put out stuff and just nothing happens, and some days you put out something that's just completely frivolous and it goes way high in your views, and you're like, I don't understand. There's no rhyme or reason to it besides to get you hooked on it and to keep you there longer so they can sell more ad revenue. And that's all it really is. As long as you're on that thing, they're making money. Period. That's all
yeah,
it is.
and that's the sad part of it, is that it is that money making aspect of it that keeps it limited. And it depends on too, like you said, where you put it. And a lot of times our perspective is going to be a little bit different when you're producing something. You have a different perspective and perception of what it is that you just produced, but someone who has a different viewpoint, you know, it's going to have a different impact. And what, I don't know, it's like an idea in my head. I kind of like to use like as something you had that was faceted. Even like this, what you're looking at for this is very different than what I see, because I don't see what you see. We're looking at the exact same thing, but what I see is that, which is totally
Right.
different. It's the same thing. It's the same exact thing. It's just a different perception perspective.
Yep.
But it's the same. So when you're looking at something, you may not perceive it as something, oh, it's frivolous. Well, maybe you need more frivolity in your life.
Right.
I don't know. Lighten up,
Right.
Tom.
Right. Exactly. No, and there's a lot of that too. And I think to get to a certain point where you are open to all these things, you do have to lighten up. You know what I mean? It's like otherwise you're just too hardwired into whatever you think has to be or is all the time, or what. There's just those subtleties of just being able to, like, again, like I guess it comes to being grateful enough to just like let go and be like, it's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. Let's just have a good time instead of having to worry about all the little details and pick ourselves apart and go through
Yep.
all this. Social media is doing. We're trying to be the best version of ourselves that we can be in an illusionary form. And
Yeah.
how insanely fleeting and stupid and horrible does that sound? You know what I mean? Somebody
Yep.
said it, I think the other day. They're like, they're how did that go? They're working a job they don't want to work while being addicted to it, or while being fed with speed with Adderall or whatever, while being addicted to a small object in their hand that they have to look at every day that just makes them sad.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's just like
Yep.
where it's pretty much at with most people. It's just like they work a job they don't want to do, they don't feel good about in their lives. They're probably on some prescription meds, and they're all addicted to this dopamine booster that actually
Yep.
makes you sad, but somehow it boosts your dopamine, so you're still stuck on it because it's like a drug, but you're just ever
Yep.
longingly looking at things and not
Hey, you're
happy
probably
because
talking about some of my people. And if that's how if that's the route you have to go for the time being, and if that's your path, that's your path.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. But the thing is, where
so
you lie to focus, and we can use these things like you were just saying. We can use these things for positivity and like to promote good. And if we get more people together and organize with that kind of thing, then we'd be good instead of everybody's misery and worry. It's like we took the news and micronized it into like everybody's drama, and now it's just on full spread or display for everybody. And it's like we don't
no,
need to know all
sorry.
that.
I just go like this, not my circus, not my monkey. And, you
Yep.
know, I'm just going to stay in my little, little aspect of who I am. You know, I
Mhm.
can't worry about somebody else's drama.
Nope.
I am all about helping whomever I can help. And that's one of the things that I do on my website. I'm a Beyond Quantum Healer, practitioner. That's kind of related to what Dolores Cannon did, right? BQA. So I used to do massage therapy. I used to do all kinds of stuff. Dude, you know, I had a Wayne State. I studied with a principal clarinetist 2 years with the Detroit Symphony. And he offered me a paid scholarship to Wayne State University. And because we lived in Milford, my dad said no.
Because you live where?
We lived in Milford, Michigan, Oakland County. It was like, what, we lived out, it was like 90 minutes, and he wasn't letting me drive his car. And, you know, I'm 17 years old and I'm going to do what dad tells me to do, right?
Right.
Yeah. So you can't make money as a musician. And I was like, this was classic. You know, I wasn't listening. I mean, what did somebody say? Oh, I remember somebody said, oh, have you heard that song, that old song by Led Zeppelin? And I said, who's he?
Right. Right. Because you weren't into that kind of music. You were into the different stuff apparently, right?
Yeah, it was like Mozart and, you know,
Yeah.
Debussy. And I listened to opera, you know, Ernest. How many people know who Ernest Sack is, or Kate Smith? Not many people. I mean, that's more operatic music.
Right.
Luciano Pavarotti was one of my favorites as a kid. So yeah, so it's very, very different, you know, for that kind of thing. And, you know, I got really immersed in the music. It was, you know, they brought home, I think I was like 13, 12. They brought home a used clarinet. So I kind of made it to first chair, but I got really bored and ended up getting other band classes. And the next thing you know, I'm doing flute and baritone, and, you know, I just keep adding to the list. I couldn't do tuba. I didn't have the lungs for it. And, you know, I was probably 110 pounds wet, but I did. I taught myself piano and I got really bored. I remember my dad had an upright piano. I took it all apart. I got bored one day. I had the soundboard out of that thing. I took all the keys out, all the hammers, and I was playing the soundboard like a harp.
Oh, he was thrilled, wasn't
I put it all back together. I don't think they knew.
he?
Nobody knew. Nobody was around, dude. I just did it all myself. But yeah, oh, accordion. My grandmother had two accordions, so yeah, I taught myself accordion. That was fun. Nobody want to listen to that, but
Do you still play?
no, I don't. I haven't played in years.
You know you should, right?
You know, and I think it's a lot easier today. I do have an open hold flute that I bought a couple of years ago, but between work and everything else, I haven't had a chance to pick it up. And I bought an electronic keyboard, but I tell you, it's just not the same. The feel's not the same. The sound's not the same. But I just have to kind of try and ignore all that. And they have these sound mixers now that you can get that just really should motivate you into making something nice.
Yep.
But
Yeah, music though, I don't ever forget that music's like it's almost like an entity in itself, and like
yes.
without us, it doesn't exist. So don't ever forget about that gift you got, because it's very important to play some music, and that we don't even know what those vibrations do to the universe. You know, we
So
really
I was
don't.
watching, it's called Can We Measure, something like Can We Measure Spirit? And I think it's called The Unified Field One or something like that. It's on YouTube. It's very long. But I watched that thing twice. I thought it was absolutely fascinating, where this guy went to a lab, had his blood sample, put it in a petri dish, and it was placed inside of a little sound box where they had the sound feed going into the box. They took another sample in the petri dish and they put it in another box, and it had a Faraday cage on it and everything. And so what this guy did is he's a professional singer, and he sang. And I don't know if it was, they really didn't open up about what it was that he sang, but it was just kind of like just listening to what they did play in the background when they were narrating. It was like, this guy's got a gorgeous voice. So when they pulled this sample out, they have a reader and you dilute the sample and you put the little strip into the reader, and the one that was inside the Faraday case, all of the cells had died. There was nothing really to count. And when they pulled out the other sample, they showed the guy do it out of the sound box, diluted it, put the slide in, and the scientist, his jaw fell open. He said, I got an error on the slide. It says, please dilute the solution. So he was able to get it to the point where he could read what was going on, in that not only did the cells live, but they procreated. While the same time frame, the ones that got zero sound, zero frequency in a dead space died. But the ones that got the beautiful sound grew, they multiplied. So I think that that's kind of how we have to look at ourselves as we are
So
procreating.
do you know about those early trials with the I think it was DMT and the machine elves? The doctors were like these doctors were taking, I think it was DMT. So forgive me if I'm wrong on the drug, but I'm pretty certain it was DMT. And in the early, like long time ago, when they were really getting into it, there was these doctors that would take it, and they would all, if they took this certain dose, they would go to this realm that was like super geometric, and everything was like super
Yes.
geometric. But there were these beings there called the machine elves, and they would come up and they'd be like, "Wow, we don't get visitors like you very often." And like, watch, and then they would speak telepathically, but then they would open their mouths, and then something would come out and start to create. But as it was created, it would keep creating more and more and more and more and more. It's like, all right, now you try. And then they would try and open their mouths. And when they try and open their mouths, they fade back into reality because they didn't have the strength, whatever it was, to stay in that realm and do that. But that's interesting because what you're saying is actually correlating with that experience, but and it's almost showing on it's almost like they were tapping in the molecular level and seeing that happen firsthand, because I totally understand that and believe that, and that makes sense. What
Yep.
that
Yep.
tells you, should we always have harmonious music playing around us at all times? My grandma only listened to classical music and she's 97 years old. She had it playing all the time. I mean, my uncle it's all he listened to for the past 50 years that I know of, and he's overcome a lot of things, and it's amazing that he's been able to do it. So it makes me wonder if there's some kind of correlation, because I have played music to my plants before, and I've been able to achieve results with that people would never do, and just play like having classical music constantly played to plants while they're growing and stuff, and then seeing the results, and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's
So,
definitely
yeah. But the DMT thing is also very interesting because it's a very fragile chemical that we are able to make, obviously, and we don't. You just have to get in the right frame and state of mind,
yeah.
and it's so the DMT. I'm not sure how they're getting it, because by the time they get to where it's produced in the brain, it's usually corrupted and there's nothing left for them to examine. So I'm not sure what they were using. I think they're hypothesizing and they make a synthetic. I'm not sure how they
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. There's so much to that. Like there's that level of chemistry is just wild. I mean, look what they're doing with cannabis, for the love of God. So they took something so simple and they're just dissecting it in every possible different way and doing this and that, and it's not really helping as much as it's just kind of losing the whole focus of what it was and the healing modality that could have came out of that.
Doesn't even smell good anymore.
No, wow. It does if you get the right people. Yeah, yeah.
Oh my
I
gosh.
no, I know I got friends that came from California and stuff like that, and they they have the old stuff that no one ever sees anymore, and they still run that. And there's nothing that can even touch it. They try the new stuff. They've tried all these different strains they've been doing. There's been some of the head growers forever, and they always go back to those old schools. Because just there's something about the originals, like, and it goes with anything. Like think about heirloom tomatoes, think about heirloom any of your veggies or all of that, and then I mean working with the Archangel Ancient Tree Archive. I know we haven't even gotten into that yet, but like I work with the Archangel Ancient Tree Archive, and the whole idea is to take the oldest trees and then preserve them genetically through clones and seeds.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because those old strains of tree actually were there before all the stuff got bad. So if they made it through all that, what we have is a tree that was able to withstand all this stuff and make it to today. But what we don't have anymore, because of what we've done, is we've done so much selective breeding by chopping all the best trees down and letting only the rest that weren't as good grow. You do that 4 or 5 times, and it completely changes the genetic diversity of what you have, and now you're breeding trees to be inferior. And that's why we're seeing, like in Michigan, for example, we're seeing oak trees just fall over and die out like nothing right now.
Yeah.
And it's just there's all ash trees, elm
Yeah,
trees.
those are long gone.
Yeah,
Any
yeah.
ash tree or anything like that, you're going to get probably something that's from another country and a hybridized. It's not the original for sure.
No,
Is there
no.
any native, if you know, is there any, I know years ago there were virgin stands of trees in Michigan. Are there any left?
It's supposed to be, last I knew, 50 acres down here and 50 acres up north.
Okay.
But
50
however,
acres, that's pathetic.
yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely. And but I think there is one tract of land that's right on the south, Lake Superior, that's a little bit bigger. And I think, but no one's allowed in there unless you're part of this special club or something like that. I can't forget what it is, but like, yeah, there was it was a specific thing. They like, if you can dig deep enough, you will actually find the paperwork on basically terminating the natives. Like they wanted them gone. They called them the savages, and they wanted them out. And so
Yeah.
they not only cut all the trees down, they put dams up on almost every single burial site they had on the rivers, because they always usually had burial sites near the rivers. They put a dam on almost every single one of them, and then
Mm.
they set everything on fire. And so I mean, how else? How do you eradicate a population of people? You take away their ability to hide, and then you set it all on fire.
Yep.
And I mean, it's systematic, and a lot of people don't get that far into our history to really want to know about it. But like, I mean, even our first presidents and stuff like that, they were just atrocious with some of the things that they would say and do and write down. But history. The more you know, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You can't turn it off. Let me tell you. That's
Oh,
for
once you know,
sure.
you can't unknow. Once you know.
Once you know, you know. Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I think the music is extremely important. The frequencies are super important. And one of the ways I think too is, like you were talking about, is the gratitude. And that starts with our thoughts, that are things that also have their own frequency. And the sound, I had seen this little video clip, couldn't tell you where, but it was talking about what sound is, and sound is not a wave per se, it's a sinusoidal bubble.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so people don't really realize that it's, it grows, it's inside your head, it's expanding outward.
Mm-hmm. Basically, we can't grasp, like, in our brains yet how it looks, because if you can take, like the golden ratio, like the divine spiral, the Fibonacci sequence, the spiral, right?
Yep.
Imagine that in 3D now, but not in one
Yep.
direction. Now imagine it omnidirectional. We can't.
Yep.
We don't
Right.
have that yet. When we figure that out, we'll probably have levitation.
Yeah. And then
Honestly.
the same thing with like a tesseract. You can't really, when you draw out, a square, and then you draw out a box, now try to draw out a 3D version of a tesseract. And I saw someone try to animate one, and that was the best version that I saw of it, but I couldn't describe it to you.
What is a tesseract? I'm unfamiliar.
It's like the square within the square, but it moves. That's the best way I can. Yeah, it was like a square within a square, but not. I don't even know how to describe it, but it is kind of based almost like, and that's what the Fibonacci kind of reminds me of, when you were looking at those concentric circles in your water. Just like that sound bubble when you speak, it's a bubble that's all around, and it just grows. It's the same thing with cymatics. It's the same thing with that sound in the
Yep.
water. You
Mhm.
know, when you're looking at the flower of life or the seed of life, that's a what we envision in your mind is still just a 2D picture.
Yeah.
That's a 3D thing.
Yeah. It's omnidirectional. Yep.
Yeah, and I was talking to is owns a shop here in Midland. He does Reiki and crystals and all kinds of fun stuff. And we had talked about it. He says that he was going to try and get some 3D versions of. It's like, dang, I need to get like, you know, and 3D printers are cheap. You could program something in and just like make them. I
Right.
want to do that. That would be fun.
Right.
But
Yeah. It's, and for an easier way for for audience purposes to like understand how to grasp the next level of our understanding. Think of a cube, like not a square, a cube, right? 33
mhm.
dimensional cube. Now try and think of all of the sides of it at the same time. Try and envision all sides of it simultaneously.
It's hard.
Whenever
Yeah,
we see it, we see it at an angle or on a certain. We see it from one direction. We don't
right.
see it omnidirectional. So
Correct.
it's like I believe easily that our brains can certainly perceive omnidirectional, but I think that we've been programmed almost in our way of learning and growing up to not. We're still based on our I need food and water instincts because that's what got us to this point in evolution. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Right.
without seeing I need that and I need this and taking that in,
Right.
like that was just it's a strictly instant reception thing, and now we're starting to be able to ponder things deeper. So we haven't had to think about what all sides of a cube looks like up
Yeah.
until now,
And
or as
and
far as
I think too that it's kind of interesting you bring that up. It's like one day we'll actually I used to say years ago, and it's like they'd be talking about man's evolution, and I'm sitting there going, I don't see any, I see de-evolution at this point. So now I can honestly say I see more and more people are actually trying to understand all of this stuff. And you I think there's a lot of misinformation of what really is going on and what it is that's really going to be able to help us all understand and keep ourselves safe. And you know, they talk about ascension, and I don't like it the word ascension. I like the idea of expansion, and it's all about being as you know. They you need to have a what is it a different. I like the idea of being very dense, but in the right with the right substance, if that makes sense. Because
yeah.
there's a different. I'm gonna. This is like the third time I've used this, but you take like a balloon and then you drop the balloon. The balloon's gonna fall. You fill the balloon with your breath, and the balloon, because of its shape, is gonna fall. And if you put the same size with a balloon and you put helium in it, it's gonna rise. So it's kind of like that's maybe where we're trying to head is you still have the same volume. You might even you know what I mean? It's like there's a difference between the breath that we have in our body and this helium that's in the balloon, but they're both balloons. So
Oh yeah. Well,
we got to figure this out.
if you want to go deep into that, we could. I mean, briefly, if you get far enough into the study of dyadics and the pristine origins of people and what they did, like there's a whole quote that says you should eat as you breathe. Back when people ate as they breathed, the disease wasn't a thing. You get to an old age and it's just what you naturally die, and like that's a whole different, whatever you want to call it. But that's a whole different thing. And the basically what they figured out, if you go deep enough into this, is that back in the day, it even says in the Bible, and I'm not a biblical person or like Christian or anything like that, but like this is just like kind of interesting as a point that they put in it. And it makes you kind of wonder versus Adam didn't have a need for hunger for the first so many days or whatever. But they say that back when things were perfectly working, say it's a nice spring day, all of the flowers and all of the trees and everything else, we had divine nutrition. We didn't have almost all of our allergic reactions are deficiency of elements in our body. And if we had the right elements put back in our body correctly, we wouldn't react to it. And I've seen people like time and time again through the right knowing from some of the older folks that were farmers and stuff, set people straight up because they just didn't know how to take care of them. But back in the day, you could just breathe in the air, and the air had so much life-giving substance. And remember, pollen's alive because pollen
Yes.
can go and pollinate. That's
Yep.
living, and you're
Yep.
breathing that in, and it can just dissolve into your body, right?
Mhm.
Like you could just literally breathe and live because that was how clean things used to be. And here we are, and we want to put it back together. Boy, we got a long way to go. But there's one positive thing that we have all of this. Every single person living that could, every single person in this world that was living that had the possibility of doing it grew a garden.
Yep.
And even if it's one pot in their windowsill, every single person did that and had something they could actually intake into their body, like divine nutrition style. They were working on themselves, and they did it successfully, right? The whole world will be transferred back into a garden, and we could do that in almost overnight fashion.
Yeah, I think even the people that live in the cities that I've seen, where it almost is like the size of a bookcase, and it's basically a terraced garden.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
it's not like it's overtaking your house. It's just like
Nope.
the size, like I said, like the size of a bookcase. I
Yep.
would starve, Tom. I'm sorry. I have a brown thumb. I killed 2 more basil plants and a rosemary plant. I was like, okay, I'm gonna save the world by not buying another pot of plants.
Do you water them?
Yeah.
Do you water them too much?
I don't know. I don't know. It's only been like that since, in the last 8 years or something like that. But yeah, because I had plants all over the place. I mean, house plants. I had a huge garden, grew all kinds of stuff, blackberries. I had gooseberries, peach trees, apple trees, corn, just I grew everything out there. But since because I left the country and then I came back, and it's ever since I've been back, it's kind of like, don't touch the plants. It's like, don't be buying me. I got even the free one. The poor thing is just like, it's pretty pathetic. I don't know. I don't know.
So you
Maybe I'm
said
just
you were
hyper
good
focused.
before you went out of the country, but when you came back, it was a problem.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just my inability to
What'd you run
focus.
into out there? What'd you pick up? You gotta shake
And
something up. Uh-huh.
you're glad it's on Zoom now.
Well, that's okay.
No, no, no. No.